takes place in Johnny's kitchen, and that's the only place throughout the story. The environment is a wealthy family that Johnny comes from, and we can see that because that Mrs. Wilson, Johnny's mom, she keeps offering Boyd some clothes and all sorts of necessities. And the atmosphere is good in the start of the story when they first come home, but then when Mrs. Wilson starts acting on her prejudices about black people, then the situation gets kind of awkward, and neither of the persons knows what to do.
The story starts in medias res, and the conversation starts right away. The conflict is present almost right away, and it keeps growing bigger throughout the story. This works quite great, and it captures the reader's attention right away. The conflict has no ending or resolution, and the part with no resolution, although I think Mrs. Wilson probably knows that she was wrong. She just won't admit in front of Boyd and Johnny. As a reader, I would really like to know what happens next time they meet. Will Mrs. Wilson act different and maybe even apologize, or will she make the same mistake? The story is chronological build-up.
The story is told in third person. The narrator is omniscient and not limited. As an example, we get to hear what Mrs. Wilson sees and thinks when Boyd walks into the room and sees him for the first time. In another line, Mrs. Wilson, it says Mrs. Wilson felt defeated, and the narrator is objective because we don't get any opinions from the narrator, only information from the story. The characters are described indirectly by the way they say and do. The author doesn't directly describe them. There's a lot of dialogue throughout the text almost all the time. The narrator's personality doesn't come to show by the way the story is told.
Characters are Johnny, Boyd and Mrs. Wilson, who is Johnny's mother. Boyd is the protagonist and a rounded character. He's the one that the story is about, and Mrs. Wilson is also a rounded character because she helps with moving the story along. She has an idea of how a person who looks like Boyd, a black person, how his situation is supposed to be. She tries to be a sweet and helping person by asking him if he would like to get Johnny's old and used clothes because she has an expectation of that Boyd wouldn't have enough money to buy clothes of his own. But he has, and his dad has a good job, and they have enough money. So he says to Mrs. Wilson that he doesn't need it, but when he says that, she gets offended because she thinks that she's being helpful and Boyd is just being ungrateful. Johnny is a minor character because he doesn't have a big role in the story. He's just helping Boyd.
We presented for this theme early on in the story because the conversation starts quite early, and Mrs. Wilson starts presenting these prejudices she has about black people. Therefore, the theme is racism and prejudices.